G9, who won the RTBF online session qualifiers and then the tournament. They are extremely proficient. They just haven't come across our radar in a lot of these big tournaments yet. Also, they have our single Australian player for EMEA in the form of Demon.
The Oceania region, I always struggle with that word, has been going on very, very swiftly as well. More in the morning, so we're not expected to see this way. For Insomnia here, yeah, it's a tricky old one, I think, when we're sort of looking at the players involved. Like, who sort of catches your attention the most at this rate? Also, we're missing Siwo as well. I was excited for him because I like this Captain America. We've got Sentinoblin playing.
Sentinoblin going to be taking the place of Passimo here. We will see how this affects their drafting phase. Passimo has been their big Captain America player for the team, has also been running a little bit of Emma Frost. This might change their drafting style, which I guess means Rad might have a more difficult time banning for them, because normally you'd see Passimo and be like, yeah, you know what, the Cap's a solid choice to fill in the draft phase. So Rad, they're just playing it safe. Simple bans. Not the bag, though, which is kind of wild, because Insomnia, they do pick up the bag because Rad chose to ban Emma Frost first.
I also think the Fate is missing an E from his name, because Fat is in the server. And he's the one missing. You've got Naga Awesome as well. Like, great. Like, they'd be very, like, open and experimental. I know it's, like, seeding that these guys are playing for, but Rad, you know, they beat Virtus Pro once. Now look at them. They're taking creative liberties on their usernames. But they are actually going to use that second save over towards the Human Torch. Maybe a little bit worried after the last series that, like, Naga is going to be hit pretty hard when it comes to some of the other bans.
Rad going to be securing that Human Torch, like you say. The Wolverine potentially going to be secured by Insomnia. They've shown how much they do like to play that, especially Demon. We've made the joke a million times, we'll make it a million more. A literal Demon on this Wolverine, but instead they protect the Punisher, giving them a more stable option as opposed to almost holding them in to a Wolverine style of draft. Final ban. Rad, one of the first teams that started banning the Cloak and Dagger earlier, including against Virtus Pro when they did find that victory, understanding its strength potentially before anyone else.
Could be Pasiwo instead of Sentinoblin that's playing. Hard to know if it's just a username change or just a completely different player. Not as familiar with Insomnia like I mentioned, so who knows? But you're right, like Rad, the draft system that they've pretty much concocted and maybe even patented to an extent, looking to use it again here on Benim T'Challa. All of these first maps are going to be domination, so they are going to be a little bit more brawly. It's something that we saw from Insomnia again in their matchup previous up against Team Peps, that it was a little bit more brutal. And it was Peps that actually took that map first. So here for Rad, they haven't dropped the map at all in this tournament. Must be feeling pretty good going into this one.
That's very true. Rad currently undefeated. And even in rounds, they dropped 1 round versus Virtus Pro. They did drop 3 rounds versus Alcancia, who did take them to an overtime. So Rad are assailable. Will Insomnia be the ones to do it?
Got it?
Zoom out is coming through. Melio over on the Ultron for that triple support. You've got a little bit of the Guardians in there too, as Fate's going to be over on that Adam Warlock. Naga up in the sky, raining down hell with these flyers. Insomnia, a little bit more standard stuff than what we've been consistently seeing. But both teams running the Adam Warlock, both teams running triple strategist.
Coming in for a little bit more healing, whereas Rad went for a little bit more DPS on their strategist, with Melio almost being a third duelist as well as Fate, giving them that little bit of extra protection. Right now, Awesome making the most of the positioning, utilizing this top wall, the ceiling being lower on this building to just siege from above and getting themselves a pickup. Right now, Insomnia do seem to be taking at least a little bit of momentum back after Rad started off so aggressively.
Yeah. Nocta clipping the wings at the very least over on Melio. But it's the Vanguard line that actually find the picks to keep things going for Rad. Pushing up on the point in the blue side, and Rajaro is really just springboarding this pick into pick. More time into more time. And Insomnia GG, they do have some ultimates at least very much available. An invisible boundary, you want to be a little bit closer to the objective. Ideally, it wants to be on the objective before you take these engagements, but Rajaro trying to hide away, sneak back, disengage, get a little bit of support coming in from the rest of his team, and then straight back in on the fight with Melio supporting.
The rage of Ultron with the dynamic flight for the speed to chase them in, and they dominate that. Insomnia sent back to spawn. Invisible boundary at the ready for relaxing nights. But this is Rad controlling this early stage and making the real case that the win versus VP wasn't a fluke and that they are aiming for first place as Insomnia look to try and find an opening.
Trust me, it's very, very close to having a psionic seduction. Captain America running in. Bit of the unnamed player being thrown into a hell of a matchup, and there's the supernova that's coming through. Meteor M from the distance, bounce back actually from the Captain America, comical almost, but no eliminations either side from it. The Climate Revival, if there was people that went down, they're going to be right back, because I think both of them have come in. No, Fate is sat on his still. Trust me, it's just brawling, happy to go in for the fight, and Demon gets a little bit more than what he could chew on. Bit of a mouthful as Rajaro trying to match up the Captain America head-to-head. Still has that freedom charge, but not needed. Rad looking to make this 100% to 0.
Demons trying a portal, but they might not have time. 97, 98, 99, and 100. The portal just too short, and that is going to be Rad claiming that stellar spaceport as we head into Warrior Falls. That was solid. That is what a lot of people are now expecting out of Rad. Insomnia, what do they have in the tank? What is the comeback potential here?
Oh, the Vanguard's not going down once. It really is just, I'm still going to call him Fate, because I think calling him Fat just sounds a little bit, like, directed, you know? Like, I know that tomorrow when his name's going to be back to normal, if we do see him play tomorrow, I'm going to accidentally start calling him Fat, and nobody wants that. But free ultimates still available for Rad as they go in onto the second point. We're so used to seeing these game modes, Tetcher, just go back and forth, 99% to 99%. It's a statement that Rad have been so clean on this for so long, regardless of whether it's Insomnia that they're playing up against or Virtus Pro. They are making it very quick and easy. And they're wanting to do the same here.
Insomnia, they look like they're going to be doing a little bit of a copy here. They're going to bring out the Ultron of their own for an attempted turnaround here. And Demon moves over to the Human Torch. These compositions are now mirrored, with the exception that Fate is sticking with this Adam Warlock and Relaxing Nights. They are very keen on this Invisible Woman. It's literally the only character they've played so far.
Yeah, just really finding where this fight is going to start. Melio is going to start us off with the Rage of Ultron. It's not him getting the picks. You look at Rajaro over in the elimination feed, and he just is so good at finding too. The freedom charge not needed. It's how well Rad are comboing here, and when you've got a player like Rajaro on one of his like most apt characters, it really does make it feel night and day difference from what we've seen so far.
It really does, as Rad are in so much control right now. Melio on that Ultron, putting on the pressure. Naga continuously powering up and just dropping all the damage, diving in aggressively from time to time as well on this torch. This is the control. Here comes the aggressive dive here from the Cap on the side of Insomnia. Counter from Rajarova, and their team is already getting dropped down, but it of course is going to be the Adam Warlock who can return and bring back the rest of the team, which they will do. Karmic Revival onto Awesome, as we are seeing Rajarova looking for the turnaround. There's no counter here. Nocta going to try and create an opening by sieging into that hallway, but in the meantime, Trust Me is dominating this fight.
Ooh, Meteor M is crisp right onto Naga, but a trade means that this progression is still going the way of Rad. Despite them being down in numbers, Insomnia trying to maybe have a jump off the map or reset, but no, it is just Trust Me playing with fire, quite literally being on the edge of this waterfall in a position. Rajaro gets another kill. We're sort of used to seeing that at this point. Just in the middle of all the chaos, finding so much, and it's 0% made on the bot from Insomnia at all so far on Benim T'Challa, and 76% ticking up from Rad, and they got plenty on board to be working with ultimate-wise.
Naga pushing on in. Supernova going to be coming out from Demon, but Naga taking out Nocta, removing all of that healing. Relaxing Knights is sniped by level 1 Crook, and Naga finishes off Demon. Lurkin's going to try and delay with the Soul Rejuvenation. The damage boost has been coming in, but there's no one left to damage boost. Sentinoblin is down, Forever is down. It's 99, 98, 99, and 100. Yet another convincing setup for Rad. They take game number 1.
Hard work for Insomnia. Just felt that they weren't able to get anything on board, and this draft plan and the comps that we're seeing, albeit they're a little bit different for Rad, does feel like Thanos, as the young whippersnappers like to say. Ultron, the other big bad, is going to get the MVP. People always sort of bring up the fact of like it seems to lead towards Ultron always getting MVP. He is an artificial intelligence, and it is an artificial intelligence within Marvel Rivals that decides who gets the MVP, right? So, I mean, you can connect the dots there.
Literally hacking the mainframe in order to make sure that they get MVP every single time. Melio, 5 final hits in that game, almost 7k damage, which is as much as Demon did, and they were on torch that game. Melio showing off the ability that you can sometimes get with this Ultron to track your opponents, to land those shots, which is a hit scan attack. You can really dominate when needed.
And the Vanguards yet again, Rajaro and Trust Me, neither one of them dying, surviving the entire time, not going down once. And I think one of the things, if you look at the triples strategist comp from Rad, it doesn't look like you have like the sustain to keep people, like Ultron, it almost feels that you always need free support. And then having the Adam Warlock on top, okay, then you need a real big beefy healer like the Cloak and Dagger to keep people going. No, level 1 Crook's over on the Mantis, and it's still enough to keep people going in these fights. Dominantly, might I add, as well for Team Rad.
A strong performance in game number 1. Rad still right. Symbiotic Surface will be the next map.
Now, Insomnia also choosing to attack first. The Vanguards switching around. We're so used now to seeing the Magneto be taken out unequivocally as opposed to it being personal preference. It's whether or not Insomnia, because they are Insomnia, they like to change stuff up, they are going to go for the obvious answer. And for Rad, I almost feel like the formulaic approach of how they've been doing this draft thus far, we can almost guess the direction this is going to go in. They're going to try and protect the Magneto on their side, which honestly, that being available to them, they're going to be very, very happy about.
They've been making great use of this Magneto. It's been one of the dominant forces. You did like a little graphic with a threat level for Magneto, and it was 100% after a few days, and I really doubt that's changed. It's appearing literally every single game so far. There's the Loki getting taken out to Mirror, and so far, so normal, so standard, as we do see these teams basically mirroring each other, except for that Mag versus Emma setup.
I mean, this is always the challenge when it comes to metas when you're playing in like an underdog position like Insomnia is. If you try to match what the other better in inverted commas team is trying to do, you lose, right? Like, you have to gamble something, you have to try to think outside the box. Maybe there is an element of Insomnia, especially because this is their map choice, that they can sort of mirror things, but they've opted to try and take the Ultron at least off the board. Having, with having a flying torch and the Ultron in the sky, it's a little bit too much to deal with, and just takes their focus away from the main front lines of these fights, and namely probably those strategist backlines. But what are they going to save here?
Looking at that Wolverine again, this time they go for it instead of the Punisher. Speaking of Punisher, Rad, while we do see that Ultron taken away from Melio, they have played Punisher and Adam Warlock throughout the rest of the game. They're going to go for a counterban onto the Human Torch. While they did take the game, obviously, they aren't a huge fan of playing into it because it's rough. Same issue with the Cloak and Dagger, and that will be their final ban.
The right heroes could make all the
It's
difference.
tense, isn't it, a little bit for like Insomnia? Like, I think teams like this, it feels a little bit like Lone 9 to an extent of Insomnia having to go through the qualifiers. Rad invited from... Actually, no, Rad went through the qualifiers as well. My mistake. I was so used to them because this is effectively that old OG roster that they would have been invited for the Invitational, but no, hasn't quite worked out that way. They have to pull up their bootstraps and come through the qualifiers themselves, but it does mean that they're able to get a lot of reps in on what this meta is, despite the fact it's changing quite a lot. Feels that Rad are the closest to having it solved for the time being, but I imagine a lot of teams are keenly watching this. They're looking at the draft from Insomnia and going, maybe if they did this instead of that, or maybe if they run what they're running now, they might have the answer. And we might be able to see and crack what Rad have been working on so far this week.
We will have to see. You mentioned Rad coming through those open qualifiers. They came through qualifier number 1 when they still went under team 1. And Insomnia came through qualifier number 2. Had to go for their second attempt as they weren't able to make it in that first rotation. Now, the question is, as we see a very messy game of noughts and crosses in this spawn door, but Demon that is a portal, attempting to take them off the side, but they go through the different door, not going to get caught out. As Insomnia are looking to go for the hard engage. Rajaro is starting on Jeff.
Right, the portal play, trying to set things up, and yeah, we have seen a little bit more Jeff, but it's the fact that it's Rajaro that's on it. He just seems to be going for almost gun game and the characters that he's wanting to pick up and play. That means that, trust me, is that solo Vanguard for the time being. Maybe just trying stuff out at this rate. Rad at least wanted to begin with this whole to try and throw off what Insomnia are doing, but it's not quite working. Progression with 5 players on the board, and Rad still contesting. Nobody's been eliminated. They've just had to give up the space for free and go for the re-engage. It's a great catch actually from Demon, just slipping into the sky, catching Naga out and slamming it right back down to the ground. The Viraback's going to bring some numbers back in these engagements. Rad looking a little bit more scrambled. This play with its Jeff ultimate available is not really going to be that useful, as the final judgment's going to come in with the amplifier. You've got the invisible boundary on top as it's 92% progressed for Insomnia. It's a wacky old thing that's happening, and the Agamotto's connecting 1 apiece, but the follow-up's not quite there. Rad losing this point in a surprising amount of time.
They built up the charge for that Jeff Nado. By the way, Rajaro again, they did start on the Jeff. Last time it was Naga who played the Jeff, as this team have run Jeff Nado before, and they are now charged up for it. But Insomnia, they've now seen it, and it didn't get to be dropped in that first fight. Look, they've swapped the Hulk coming out here, because if you are CC immune, you can't get pulled in, and that indestructible guard could be the tool they need to try and break from that pull-up, and the ability to, of course, throw Demon directly at your enemies to try and catch people out of position.
I don't know anything about American football, but like throwing in the Wolverine, he's not quite connecting onto anything. The long ball actually is just at the end of it, just takes a little bit of a bounce off the ground, but Naga is not going to be too threatened by it in comparison to last time. The Demon having that last stand, looking to see if he can catch people out, and Rad is still dedicated to this. Rajaro still sat on the Jeff, and it's just allowing his whole W approach. There it is, last stand, able to catch, trust me, but it still seems to be Rad filling up the kill feed, but then you see the counter revival bringing everybody back in a split second. Insomnia still keeping things moving along and trucking, and Rad, surprisingly, in a bit of free fall.
We talked about it, exactly, that we need to see Insomnia try something different. They are running a team upless less Adam Warlock. That word made sense, but it did not sound right. Adam Warlock without any Mantis or Star-Lord for revives. Then they've got Rocket for revives. Then they've got the Invisible Woman for just standard support. They've got the Hulk without the more. And then, of course, they have the Wolverine, who is being the majority of their pickups. We finally saw that Jeff Nado coming in, and that will force the push out from Insomnia, going to force them to back up and regroup. But they are making some serious progress this time.
All right, things settle down for a moment for Rad. Final judgment. Might get things to calm down. I'd be thinking W Rash, but, you know, it is the Adam Warlock on the other side. Shout out to the championship team that's also playing under that banner as well. Relaxing Knights is the one that's clearing up. It takes Melio out as he has that final judgment. That's a big ultimate to not be available in this fight, as everything else is going to start to be used. The Eye of Agamotto from Trust Me, not really connected onto all that much yet again. And it's Forever that finds the picks. Actually, the melee approach, the whole W Demon, he's playing at pace. It's almost hard to keep up with him. And the payload is trucking along at that kind of speed too.
Demon showing exactly why we've seen their Wolverine get banned out. Mid-fight throw being pulled in by Saint Oblin to turn that around. They dominate that. The Cosmic Yard Amplifier for the DPS output, and Rad, they've swapped up the composition. They've realized something needs to change. Naga bringing out that Human Torch, which is going to be the target as we see Saint Oblin wrapping around, charging to the sky with you. He got him! He's actually insane! Naga is... can't keep getting away with this, Ryan!
I thought Demon was like the hit scan player, but I guess when he's been thrown in the air, he is like a bullet, just shooting down anybody from Rad, who now switching over to something that seems a little bit more within their wheelhouse that we've seen previously. Rajaro over the Magneto, trust me, going for that Venom on this part of the map, looking to see if he can set up a little bit more of this dive. Burst down any of the tags from Insomnia GG that have been surviving for a good amount. We see the Hulk being able to come back into the fight. Agamotto catching onto Rajaro whilst the Force Physics sends it winding back. Karmic Revival to bring back a couple of the people that we lost just along the way. A Meteor M for Rajaro thrown into the middle of 3 different targets, square down the center. Really isn't able to do all that much in the end. We can't keep our eyes off of Demon. We could just sit on this one, observers, because he is absolutely on a tear.
They got 2 pickups, but Nocta had that Karmic Revival active for just long enough to bring them back. Cosmic Yard Amplifier for the damage boost. They're pushing in to try and break Rad to be the first team to take a series. But first, you gotta get to the end of Symbiotic Surface, get that Essence of Null. He leaps in. The offer is being sent by Saint Oblin to allow them to pull out after they nearly get caught out of position. So they have a retreat. Supernova coming in, and this time they know there's no throw available. So Naga has at least a couple seconds of freedom and is doing some great damage on the backline.
Naga up in the sky, oppressive. It's hard for anybody to look up and deal with him up until I say that. Nocta is the one that has the right click to just burn him down from the sky. Another catch in the air for level 1 Crook. Not really used to being on that side of it. And meanwhile, we see that final driftment coming in from Melio. So trust me, also going in with a Feast of the Abyss, seeing if he can crack down on anybody to catch out these picks. But Insomnia are doing a relatively good job of just surviving. Anybody that goes down that Karmic Revival now for Nocta is going to just bring them all the way back in. Rad were the ones that seem to be leading the meta side of it, but Insomnia taking a little bit of the leaf out of Virtus Pro's book, seem to have a really good response. The problem, however, Tetra, is so much time has been bought by Rad here. Oh my god, he keeps going!
They're actually dropping Battle Rebirth beacons closer to the fight so that Demon can get the jump packs to try and isolate people even more. But there's the wraparound. With time ticking down, 1 minute to go, Fate will burn that Eternal Bond, and they're able to burn through, and that is the unfortunate way of playing the Hulk. If you get dropped into that banner and you're the last one up, it is all about staggering. Take them down as late as possible. A solid extra 10 seconds off the clock because Insomnia can't engage without the Hulk, so they're waiting and they're going to Portal so that they can move out together.
Yeah, see how much this Demon Eagle can do when it's been thrown up in the sky. Has that last stand available. And the Eye of Agamotto for forever, catching people on the cusp, but it has been controlled, suppressed by level 1 Crook's Force Physics. Eye of Agamotto is able to just get that one target, which is over onto the Invisible Woman, whilst the Meteor M slamming stuff down from the sky. And Melio, yet again, with this final judgment, it feels like it's available every single fight. And now the Hulk super mode is just going haywire onto this objective as overtime is about to keep things going again for Insomnia. We see the invisible boundary thrown in over onto the point, and Sentry Noblin has actually found a couple of eliminations to bring Rad down to just bare numbers. They're able to get to the end of the map, much like they did in the match to get us here, Tetra. But it was a grueling one, and Rad did well to buy as much time as they did, honestly.
No time on the clock means no extra time if an overtime is hit. But we've seen how aggressive Rad can play when they want to, when it comes to rushing it down opponents. But we got exactly what we asked for. Insomnia, we asked them to play aggressive, and they did it. They tried something different, and just launching Demon on cooldown, lurking on the rocket. They played it before, but utilizing it just for extra jump packs, for quick revives, to make sure that Nocta was always available so that they could get karmic revivals. This top position is so unique, so creative, and extremely effective.
So now Rad forced to sweat a little bit more than what we've seen over like the last few games that they've played.
Get ready.
And they tried something with the Jeff early on in that part of the map, but the reasoning behind it remains to be seen. Certainly a question to ask them if we do get them in the interviews later, but Insomnia might have something to say about that too. Reverse sweep required. Finishing the map is good, but now that you defend, you don't want Rad to be able to do that with time on the board.
4, 3.
Let's see if they can break this, if they can turn this round. Portal trap finds no one going to fall for that. They roll out fast, and here come Rad rushing on that right hand side, going for the high ground contest. Here is Melio.
Quiet approach up until now. This is about to end in a grenade. Just buying the time, seeing if they can catch anybody. Flying through the sky at the speed of light. Jumps right onto the last target as he swings past everybody. But the elimination's actually going in the direction of Naga. He's just up in the sky. Suppressive fire coming down, and whilst the Hulk is still being a bit of a pain to deal with, everybody's backed up into a room against a Human Torch. This doesn't seem like the approach, and especially when that shotgun comes out from Melio, you're going to be sent back to the spawn doors for the time being.
And this is the risk of this composition. If you don't find a pickup, you can start to get staggered very effectively, and that's exactly what we saw. Demon was the last to go down, but that's because they were so busy trying to find someone and being blocked out by, trust me, they got a really good reactionary Iron Bulwark to prevent that, and now that means Rad have momentum. Rajaro's on this Captain America to keep some pressure onto the backline, and Insomnia are forced to retreat here. It's all about not getting caught by this Wolverine. Speaking of which, here he comes, the angriest, most Canadian missile.
Oh, good grief. Naga's trying to control the skies as much as possible, has to dodge those missiles that are coming through. But Melio seems to be really coming into his own as well now. He does have the final judgment, just sat on top of it for now, seeing if he can get some more expenditure out of Insomnia. We do see the Yarn Amplifier being used, and well, we're going to see much. I don't know how Demon is able to see much when it comes to the space and the speed that he's traveling at, but he's being so annoying. Rad is still keeping things ticking, and ultimates are plenty.
How do you play this indoors? It's just 90% ceiling, and they're still finding pickup.
Going again.
Throw, trying to get onto anyone, chasing down Rajaro, but they're too fast on the Captain America. Here comes Melio. Oh, that's an unfortunate place to be, Banner. Getting absolutely taken down, trapped by the transforming map. Karmic Revival, though, brings back the team. Lurkin will be the one to fall. Not getting revived, just out of time as Demon final stand sent from downtown. It's enough to take out Naga, but Melio still stands tall, utilizing that extra bonus help from the Freedom Charge of Captain America, and they are pushing on back.
Melio just using the close quarters to his advantage, but the be right backs, the Karmic Revivals, Insomnia GG are just, it's attrition, it's bodies, it's zerging the point as much as he possibly can, but it hasn't stopped Rad getting to the end with not only a good chunk of time, but more than Insomnia were able to get.
5 minutes to go, but yeah, Insomnia have a multiple revive composition, so they might have what they need to try and delay. But the fact is, they're kind of getting picked off. There's a lot more room, though, now for Demon to maneuver here to try and get these pickups. Melio positioning far forward to try and zone away early to make some space. Here comes... There was a little bit of a swap, even though it was knocked out, swapped onto the more here.
Oh, it was a clean engagement, but not quite bringing them down to ground. Melio using this bulwark to allow to get closer. The shotgun damage is just seeing if he can force more out. Nocta actually switching over to the name, or is it Furious Ones? And there's more grabs up Elio, that final judgment, having a bulwark to just keep him going. The pocket meta is real. Moxie is talking about this aplenty, and Melio showing that Rad, with 4 minutes on the clock, looking to keep themselves a great big time bank to work with. Nocta, however, does have the Horn of Proteus to work with, but where on earth do you put it? With everything going on, you've just got this big ball of metal, invisible boundary, and a giant whale flying across the screen, and then Demon now and again flying across the screen.
Demon's trying to buy time, but that Eternal Bond is buying so much time. Final stand pushes 2 people off the point, but takes himself off the point as well. Rushing back in as quick as they can. That's going to be the freedom charge, giving all that bonus health and looking to try and hold them in the spawn. But positioning-wise, Insomnia do have more people on the board, locking down the camp. Relaxing Nice brought back at the Battle Rebirth Beacon, but Demon taken out by the one Crook. They're so close to the spawn. If they can just delay this. Hulk is one of the best delayers in the game. So hard to take down, but Satanopoulos is taken down into that banner. That's a Psionic Seduction to try and zone them out to shut down any of these defensive abilities, but the shield from Mag is buying the time. Everyone is still fighting. Hulk's coming back. Lurking with the Cosmic Yard Amplifier is going to expire, and they've driven back Rad.
There's still so much time. It's a good fight for Insomnia to be winning, but you've just got to do that for another 3 minutes in the end. Are there going to be any changes that you need to make? Nocta moving over to the Namor, I think it's done quite a lot to just get some poke, and certainly the squids thrown down are just going to be a little bit more awkward for the likes of Rajara that's trying to jump in a little bit more. Good grief, so far these maps have been an absolute sweat fest, and there's the catch. He's trying to get on the Human Torch, just over on the vapes, I suppose, in the air, in the sky that he leaves behind. His final judgment from Melio seems to be the go-to. He is shut down emphatically now as Naga pulls out the Supernova up in the sky, brought down to ground, back down to earth from Demon, who has been the namesake. He's been ridiculous. How do Rad deal with him? He's just such a thorn in their side.
They're running out of bodies though. Down goes Banner. The cart moves in. Who is left? Who can touch this cart? It will be held. It will be delayed, but they clean out Demon. 2 meters and 50 centimeters remaining, taken out the Battle Rebirth Beacon to keep them off the point, as there's an attempted delay from Nocta on the Iron Fist. Now the rocket comes in, 1 body at a time, but it's not enough as Rad will hit the triple with 1 minute and 30 left.
One chance, an extra bit of time for Insomnia to try to get progression on the board. But this is giving me flashbacks to last week. They had a minute, they managed to push the point all the way to the end of the map. The problem is, this is Rad that we're talking about here. And whilst Insomnia would be really happy that they were able to finish out the map in the way that they did, the fact that Rad were able to do it with like a couple of minutes still on the board, even with this strategy of the Wolverine being thrown in the sky, trying to anti-air some of the stuff that Rad have been doing, it's one element, one facet that they need to keep track of and nail down.
Demon is going to swap off. They are bringing out Emma Frost. They are bringing out the Penny. They're on attack, I believe, so they are probably just armoring up. The Demon on the Emma implies that they are actually going to roll out with that, meaning that we may see a triple Vanguard, triple Strategist. Okay, they do swap off at the last moment. They are going to stick with Wolverine.
But you've added a
Alright,
flair.
transfer Insomnia. Maybe not going to get the same freedom as you got last time. I gotta say, Nocta has been really impressive. I feel like we were sort of looking into it, going into players like, okay, which players have played the most heroes, certainly from different categories, and Nocta is climbing up that list, even just from today. Moving over to that Emma Frost, as the triple Vanguard seems to be something that's locked in. A bit more of a brawl on point. If Rad are not careful, they might just get ran over by this locomotive. Demon thrown in, knocked down to the low ground, and you could already see immediately the Insomnia GG putting their butts over onto the objective, saying to Rad, you've got to move us. Haven't quite got to 33% yet, which is going to be that first point, I suppose, of progression that they need to hold on to. But eliminations are coming through for them in the end.
They're pushing on in. Soulbond protected against the first initial engage. Relaxing Knights will go down. Naga takes out Nocta, but Demon and Center Noblin are pushing on in. That is likely going to be a point number 1. Portal to attempt to reinforce, but it's too late. Just going to have to let that go. Trust me, pulls back so they can teleport to the further back spawn point and not get caught out of position.
All right, this feels eerily familiar. And they know now that Insomnia, that this is a momentum game. And, well, forward momentum is something the Demons had just been thrusted into, but he doesn't have that team up anymore, so it's going to have to be a bit more moderate in how he's playing so far. But Rad, knowing that this is an important fight to win, and I guess most importantly, it's one to not lose. There comes that suppressive fire, just these flames thrown on the ground, the triangle making this an awkward wall for Insomnia to traverse around. The Demons trying to pull people in, spots Rajaro that might have overextended slightly, but he's able to disengage nicely. Melio, that final judgment looming, waiting, seeing if he could force a little bit more out yet again, as lurking the arm on for fire, maybe giving Demon enough damage to take down Rajaro. And now there's no more waiting. They don't want to get any further. They want to shut this down now to Rad, but this final judgment, even with the help of the invisible boundary, not catching too much up until Nocta's taken out. The B-Right-Back's brought back Nocta. He has the counter revival, so things can keep on going as this momentum for Insomnia, they're used to playing on it on this part of the map, might be enough to tinker things onto point B.
The problem is they have this Wolverine, they have this Strange, they have Emma. Some of them will sometimes fight off the point, and they are trickling down their overtime. The cart is creeping forward slowly but steadily as Trust Me has taken on the rear flank, getting a lot of damage onto these backliners. Ayamagamoto sent deep into the backline. Force Finish pushes them off the point, but they need to make sure someone's there trying to block out Melio from that shotgun as they push on in. Demon going aggro, but they are cleaned up, and that is going to be a hold. One extra point, 127 meters.
Not bad considering. Insomnia with a minute, not quite pushing it to the end of the map, but again, matching that hard. Very, very, very hard. And just some of these fights have been amazing to watch. We sort of expected it to be a little bit more like this on Domination, right, Tetra? Of just these two teams rolling it out, long overtimes to separate the two teams. But I think it has been a different factor, has been Naga. It really does feel like it. There's so many fights that are like, okay, we're watching Melio, the final judgments come in, he hasn't got a pick. Oh, just as I was saying, nothing came of it. Naga finally just gets the burst combo down onto somebody, and everything's able to set up from that point. Now it is Rad's chance to attack, and I don't see a Doctor Strange just yet to go for a portal play. I'm curious on what the direction is going to be as we see Sentinel go back over to the Hulk. Demon looking to be picked up and thrown around just a little tad more.
This time they are bringing that in the border as well. A little bit more defensive here, less vanguards, but more DPS to try and push people off the point. We do see that advanced rocket-packed lunge now featuring more spiders from the side of Rad to make sure that everyone is topped up, armored up to make their way in. 30 final hits for Naga, you talked about it, but they are doing so much for their team right now with the help of Trust Me keeping them topped up with those iron bulwarks to make sure that they have these opportunities to just hopefully not get picked off by this Wolverine.
2.5 minutes there or thereabouts for Rad to take the first objective and then push it about 125 meters. Past some of the treacherous chokes that Insomnia know how to play around. We've seen it. This has been a good map for them historically. That's why they chose it. But ultimates, 0% for everybody. It feels like who's going to be able to get there first is going to have a great big advantage. And it's actually Lurkin that seems to be making a good amount of progression. Even Nocta has moved back over to the Namor, might have a Horn of Proteus before anybody else is really able to get going. Unfortunately, I spoke too soon. He's eliminated. The B-Right-Back is going to bring him into the fold yet again, and Crook taken down by the counterpart over on the Invisible Woman.
Naga being able to wrap around, playing inside a little bit to make sure that they have some defense. Gets caught out, chased down, and that's what we need to see. Second that iron bulwark's down, Demon needs to come flying in. Lovely force, physics, and they're holding a little longer. Ryan, they're starting to believe. Insomnia with that battle rebirth beacon, that extra revive from that rocket armor spawner are starting to hold out. Rad forced to regroup and push in again, but they're starting to get close to the strategist ultimates.
Made a third, but that progression isn't going to matter if they don't get things moving in a minute's time. Rajaro trying to find Nocta up on their lonesome, but Demon flying into the rescue like the superhero that he is. is just holding in this sort of little alcove, not fighting on the point, but there's enough of a contest there. I'm not too sure who's really playing on this point right now to try to keep things going. It must be one of the vanguards. Relaxing Knight is taking a huge chunk of damage though. Sentinel sent back down to Bruce Banner form, brought back, so the Hulk is going to just keep resetting things going. And now Rajaro fighting on the objective with that freedom charge. Still, the point is not ticking up, and Insomnia just are immovable from the looks of it. Supernova from Naga has to be dedicated to just be the difference maker. Meteor M sent onto Bruce Banner as he's being reset down to the lower form. And now Rad, with 20 seconds left, I'm not going to have any more allocated time if they take this overtime to keep things going, and just in time too.
It's not low-key, but no resurrections this time. The Battle Rebirth Beacon burned a little bit early for Insomnia while they've been trying to catch people with Demon. Nocta is getting targeted. We saw the rush in by Rajaro. One of the characters is Captain America that we do see the Namor have a little bit more trouble with, because Namor can deal with the squishier divers because the squids will focus them down, but Cap is a bit too tanky and much harder to deal with. Demon finds Melio, forced to try and save the day. Iron Bull one. All of the resources being burned to Melio, and they sustain through, dropping final judgment for the turnaround, and they are punishing Insomnia. Overtime is being held. The Eternal Bond, the finish line is within sight, and Rad are creeping towards it.
There's maybe another fight in it for Insomnia, and I think one thing that the Wolverine has been doing well has just been causing a little bit more chaos. It's like everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face, or everybody has a plan until they have a Wolverine diving at them from 400 miles an hour in the sky. But Rad are very good at taking these fights. They're not really that well phased, and you have Naga jump in the air, the double jump, the double catch on him. He's still able to survive, mostly because of trust these bulwarks that have kept things alive in favor of Rad. The payload stopping for the time being, and overtime is starting to dwindle down a good amount, a treacherous amount for Rad. It's now pretty much on the precipice. Insomnia just seeing if they can pull somebody off, and when your main damage dealer, the Duelist of Naga's up in the sky, it's one less body to get things going. A portal required. Look how close the overtime is at the top of the screen. It's down to a little flicker of hope for Insomnia, and that payload still needs to move a good 10 meters. That's the pick. That might be a force of a reset. Lurkin not having the Beera back is going to keep things just right on the precipice. Tetris is going all of the distance. It's down to a wire of 4 meters, and Rad pushed to the end, catching Forever out. It's just enough. Rad take this series 2-0, but you cannot say that this was a close one.
I would be terrified if I saw this matchup and I had to play against Insomnia in the playoffs. They just pulled what was almost an insane comeback. That draft is tough to deal with, but we did see Rad deal with it, utilizing some incredible iron bulwarks, utilizing that supernova exactly when it was needed, even flanking Magneto at times to try and make sure they could get some knockbacks into their own team to set up some of those eliminations. This is what happens when bags are slipped through the ban phase. No, this is why we did see Insomnia ban out the Emma Frost as opposed to the bag, because this comp's going to get shut down by a Carbon Crush. But Magneto, with the shields, may have saved their team the game there. That was so impressive from Rad.
60 eliminations went in for Naga, almost 40 final blows. Shows just how much of an irritating factor he was. And then you got Melio putting out almost like 60, 70k's worth of damage. If you're a Vanguard playing into this, that's a lot of mitigation that you have to do. If you're a strategist, that's so much healing that you need to do to just keep things even. I love the ideas that Insomnia brought into this one. It was so much fun. And I really would have liked to seen us go to a third map, but the way that Insomnia plays, the chaos that they are happy to form and thrive in, it works for most teams, but Rad have been together for so long. They're used to playing off of this. They're used to the chaos. And that was the defining factor in this series to keep Rad up on top and into the grand final of their respective group.
Nicely done. They will make their way on, like you say, into the grand final of their group. And it's gonna be a tough one. We already are starting to get this bracket filled out. We have Rad Esports moving on to, well, wait to see who will win between Insomnia and Virtus Pro in the lower bracket of that group. And that's not going to be fun for Insomnia after one of the toughest games of their tournament lives. They got to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I also think it's a case of like, okay, Insomnia was seen not really, I wouldn't say respected, but I'd say that they were just not really given the same time of day of like the Virtus Pro, the Berber Patpim, and even like Zero Tenacity, I think, turned a couple of heads. I think Insomnia, you have to definitely look as somebody that can make potentially a top 4 finish, maybe even top 2, but there's so many like strong teams that you have to take out along the way. You can find a little later on. The first question I have, how much of a pain in the ass was that Wolverine to deal with? Because every time we cut to them, he was just flying through the air, catching somebody. Like, what were the comms like when you just have Demon flying across your screen at like Mach 4 that consistently?
It was definitely not dealt with great. That second map was not so good. I think Demon got a lot of value on the Wolverine, but I think also Crook managed to get a lot of pulls, which was good.
You guys absolutely turned that round, like you said. You got some really good iron bulwarks. You had some great force physics to turn that round. But going it from a game number 1 where you had so much momentum into a game like that with the mental reset, how much did you come to expect of this? Because we have been seeing some similar things, but nothing like that with the Hulk throw.
Honestly, we kind of went into the second map thinking like, okay, let's try and change things up. Let's go for a different matchup to like, I mean, keep them thinking, right? Our original comp we rolled out on, maybe it didn't work so well, but I think after we swapped comp, I think this map was a lot more one-sided.
What was the initial idea for that comp? Because we saw a little bit of Jeff as well, so
yeah,
the plan, reveal as much as you like. I don't want you to reveal too much, but
yeah.
The general understanding.
I mean, it's just like it's the VP comp that we ran against VP on the first map, which worked pretty well. I think the Jeff Storm is just like getting weaker and weaker as time goes on, though. I think as more teams learn to play against it.
So you guys are now in that upper bracket grand final. You will be playing against, for your seeding, either Insomnia again or Virtus Pro again. Both teams you have already beaten. Do you have a preference?
I mean, preference would be VP, just because we want to keep proving to the world that we are better than VP. So
I'm curious of what the fallout has been like from last week Virtus Pro's like win, because you guys have been like pretty much right behind them when you were on OG, when you were sort of playing in these other tournaments. Like now, Berber Patbin might be a little bit more scary, I suppose. Sorry,
yeah.
And then you guys as well for LG beforehand, just able to like scare them, I suppose. But now that you've actually been able to beat them, do you have like a lot of DMs from like other teams and coaches be like, hey, good job, can you give us any help with like the draft stuff? Because it seems to be you leading the line on this like cloak and dagger stuff, I'd say.
Yeah, I think like our team has a very, very good grasp on the meta. We've had I was talking to, I'm not going to say the team name, but I know a lot of our teammates have been helping out other teams, trying to help them win. I think it's a good patch for us. I think Berber Patapim are very, very strong. I think they're definitely the team to beat this tournament. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Is there any shout-outs you'd like to give after what is an incredible win and reaching those grand finals for your group?
I mean, shout out to my whole team. Shout out Sestroid for, I mean, hasn't been able to play any series yet, but he's definitely going to show his name this tournament. So you guys can watch out for that.
Ooh. Fitting in the wings.
Sestroid is a scary name indeed to be kept in the back, ready to be dropped when needed. Thank you very much for joining us, Fate, and good luck in those grand finals for the group.
Appreciate that.